Unprotected by Brett Nelson, Chapter 8. James sat in the kitchen with a mug of warm apple cider clutched in his hands at nearly 3 in the morning. After 2 full days of back-breaking work cleaning storm damage around town, his inability to sleep was surprising. Restless, he carried his mug to the back porch and settled onto the swing that creaked softly as he swung. The night was quiet except for the stirring of tree leaves in the breeze and the faint rumble of diesel trucks as they flew past on the interstate. His gaze roamed over the backyard that was covered with a silver sheen of moonlight, bathing the landscape in a dreamy quality. A rustle in the shrubbery toward the back stole his attention. He tiptoed to the porch railing as his nerves tingled with anxiety. He squinted through the murky cover of night in search of what had caused the disturbance. He prayed it was nothing but the wind, but his mind went to the back door that was half a dozen steps behind him. Did I lock the door without thinking? Am I stranded outside with a crazed, psychotic killer with no way to get back inside to safety? He shook his head at the absurdity of the thought. This was Bartlett's Bend, and nothing bad ever happened here. His skin bristled at another shuffle, this time louder. Someone was out there. He glanced around the porch in search of something to use as a weapon, but nothing was there but a too heavy hand-painted concrete gnome. Without removing his stare from the yard, he took one cautious step after another until he reached the door and turned the knob. He shuddered with relief that it was unlocked, and again he reprimanded himself for being paranoid about nothing. His head snapped at the sound of a popping branch. Someone is out there. He grimaced that the only gun in the house was all the way upstairs, so he flew into the kitchen and grabbed a 7-inch knife from the cutlery drawer. With reluctance, he stepped back onto the porch just as another shuffle came from the shrubbery. "Who's there?" he demanded in a soft voice because he couldn't muster the courage to speak louder. "Lord, protect my family," he prayed. As soon as the prayer left his mouth, he closed his eyes and released a chuckle of embarrassment at the sight of a trio of raccoons waddling across the yard. "Thank you, Lord, for protecting us. But apparently I need to get a grip." "What's so funny this early in the morning?" He whirled around, heart pounding in his chest, holding the knife at chest level. Sarah stepped back with wide eyes. "Geez, Sarah, don't sneak up on people like that. You nearly gave me a heart attack." She glanced at the knife and reached out her hand. "Why don't you give me the knife, Freddy Krueger?" He handed it over with an apologetic smile. "I thought I heard something out here, and my only options were a knife or your concrete gnome. Or you could just be smart and stay in the house where the gremlins can't get to you, then call Sheriff Connor to come out and handle it." She leaned inside and placed the knife on the kitchen counter, then stepped back onto the porch. "Why are you out here this early in the morning, in your underwear, with a butcher knife?" "You ever wonder why Freddy Krueger has knives for fingers?" he asked, ignoring her gentle rebuke. She shook her head. "I never cared enough about Freddy Krueger to give it that much thought. But I suppose watching the movie might answer that question if you really wanted to know." "I watched about 20 minutes of one of the movies when I was younger and was too scared to finish. Don't tell Gabriel, though. It'll kill all the cool dad quotient I have going on with him." He moved back across the porch, reclaimed his seat on the porch swing, and patted the seat next to him. She jerked her head toward the house. "Or we could go back inside and talk where Freddy can't get to us." "Let's sit and enjoy the night for a while. In all the years since we've been married, we've never done that. Plus, it's nice to sit outside when it's not almost 100 degrees with the sun beating down on you." "Oh, it's still hot as blazes out here." She sat next to him. Maybe I should run in and get some shorts for you to slip on. Nobody's out here but you and me. As far as we know, she whispered in a spooky voice. Hun, if somebody's out there and that desperate for a peek, then they can have at it. They need to get a life, but they can have at it. It grew quiet as they swung back and forth in gentle arcs. She snuggled against him with her head on his shoulder as the songs of crickets and frogs blended into a beautiful tapestry of night music. Why are you up this early in the morning? He whispered several minutes later. Well, I heard a clatter in the kitchen, and when I realized you weren't in bed, I wondered what you were up to. When I saw the knife in your hand, I was afraid you were planning to pull a Scott Peterson on me. You don't have to worry about me pulling a Peterson on you because I'm smart enough to know I'd never survive prison. She caressed his bicep with her fingers, and they lapsed into a comfortable silence. How did the town hall meeting go last night? I was too asleep to ask when you got home. Just like you'd expect, he sighed. Tempers were high because people don't want to give up their guns. Nor should anyone be told they have to. The freedoms we enjoy in this country are slipping through our fingers at a frightening rate. After last night, I can safely say that's pretty much the consensus across town. It's probably the consensus across much of the nation, if I had to guess. Do you think things will get bad here once our guns are confiscated? Nah, I think we have nothing to worry about here in our little town. She lifted her head from his shoulder. Do you really think so? I really do. The biggest towns and cities are the ones who probably have the most to worry about when it comes to major spikes in crime rates. We have nothing to worry about here. The words sounded hollow even as he spoke them. He didn't know if what he spoke was true, but he wanted to do everything possible to dispel her worries. If only someone could dispel mine. Yeah, I suppose so, she said. They'd been married long enough for him to recognize the hopeless tone in her voice. She was worried, and there was nothing he could do about it. I've heard people talking around town for months, and I've tried to ignore it because I never thought this would happen. I thought everyone was hyped about nothing. Now that it's happened, though, they say once we no longer have guns in our possession, crime rates will spike all over the country. Maybe it'll happen and maybe it won't. There's no sense in sitting around and wasting our lives worrying about something that may not happen. I know, you're right, she answered in the same dejected voice. But what if... Her words dropped off and the cricket chorus again became the dominant sound of the night. What if things get worse around here? What if our little piece of the world erodes into chaos? What if the worst case scenario happens and we have no way to protect our kids? Honey, with all these what ifs, there's no need. Her head snapped up at him. Don't tell me not to worry until there's something to worry about. That's horrible advice. Even the Bible tells us that in the world we will have trouble. If Jesus told us that we'd have trouble, then he expects us to prepare for that trouble the best we can. He also says we can have peace in times of trouble because he has overcome the world. He shook his head. I just meant, I know what you're trying to do, she interrupted in a reconciliatory tone. You're trying to shield me from what's going on around here, and while I appreciate it, I don't need you to protect me. We can't walk around with our heads buried in the sand. We may have no recourse but to accept the inevitable and turn our guns over, but that just means we have to be extra diligent in preparing ourselves for whatever comes our way next. We'll pray and have faith in his provision and protection, but we also need a contingency plan in place. Now more than ever. Thinking outside the box. Thinking outside the box. He tapped his fingers against his lips as though deep in thought. Then he snapped his fingers. By golly, I've got it. We can stock up on Roman candles and shoot them at anyone who dares to trespass on our property. He gritted his teeth when her elbow connected with his ribs. I'm trying to be serious. What's our plan for the future? I agree that we should have a plan, but do we need to decide everything right this minute? At nearly 3 in the morning? I'm not asking for a full battle plan, she said with indignation. But we need to start some serious conversations, and the sooner the better because we don't know when the confiscations will start. He held his breath for several seconds, then released it slowly before telling her. They start next Friday, and our contingency plan is to call the sheriff if trouble comes looking for us. That's what we would do even if we still had our guns, so that's the plan for the unforeseeable future. She shook her head in frustration. They start so soon? He answered with a gentle nod. So if a burly, tattooed creep breaks into the house 2 weeks from now and ties you down, I'm supposed to let him do whatever he wants to you? Because you know as well as I do that some innocent people like us could die at the hands of a criminal in the 5 minutes it would take for the police to arrive. We could die at the hands of a bad guy in the 5 minutes it takes the police to get here, even if we did have a gun in the house. It happens every day across our country. She gnashed her teeth and tried to respond in a soothing manner, even though his blasé attitude about it irritated her. I'm not unreasonable in my way of thinking. At least with a gun in the house, I could shoot his brains out to give you, and especially my kids, a fighting chance. I pray we never have to be in such a situation. But if I do, I would do it in a New York minute to save my family. Her shoulders slumped, then trembled. As he clutched her to his side, her words plowed through his mind. Battle plan. Shoot his brains out to give the kids a fighting chance. Battle plan. Battle plan.